This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you feel like your best, fam, you can do anything. You can accomplish all those goals in your life, make sure your family's good, and even start, who knows, a mildly successful podcast. Sometimes life gets you bogged down. You might feel overwhelmed. You're not showing up every day the way that you want to. But working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of you. Because when you feel empowered, you're more prepared to take on everything that life throws at you. The benefits of therapy are endless. It's great to just check in with somebody who can give you some perspective on life. Make sure that you're meeting all the goals that you've set for yourself in life. So whether or not you've been in therapy, now could be the time to give BetterHelp a shot. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and entirely online. Just fill out their brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Couldn't be easier. If you want an empowered life, therapy can get you there. So visit BetterHelp.com/madaboutmovies today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/madaboutmovies.
How great would it be if two of us just totally laid out on the other one the entire episode and just let that person... It would be me that would be talking and you guys would just totally lay out on me, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I do that pretty much every episode, so.
It's true. Ladies and gentlemen, make yourself an adult beverage. I am Kent Garrison.
I am Brian Gill.
And I'm Richard Barden.
And this is Mad
About
Movies.
Da, 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 da! You sound insane. You realize that? Yeah. The whole world gone crazy! Seriously? It's showtime.
Mad About Movies is your go-to podcast for everything happening in the world of cinema. We discuss movie news, movie rumors, and movie rumblings, and give you a total podcast experience about everything going on in that world. After that, we break down a movie of the week, and then after that, we give you our bonus recommendations of the week. Brian, this week's movie, of the week is...
This week we're going to be talking about the TV hit that has just ended, The Office.
So this is a special episode.
Yeah, giving you a bonus episode.
Bonus.
We're going to break down The Office, what it meant to us personally, some of our favorite moments and least favorite moments, and what we think of it as a whole, as a show. And this can be a little bonus entertainment for all you loyal listeners out there. We will also have our regular movie podcast of the week that we're going to post at the same time. But this is the bonus episode, and we're really excited to talk about this show that was so impactful in all three of our lives.
Yes, absolutely. Sad day on last Thursday when the last one aired. It was really good though, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. I guess we'll go into more spoiler territory a little bit later. But for now, let's just stick to the general thoughts. We're not going to do movie news. Let's delay movie news till our next podcast. So let's just dive in head first into The Office. Brian Gill, I know you are a huge fan. I think you're definitely as big a fan as I am. I'm as big a fan as you can get, I think, this show. So start us off with your general thoughts. How did you get into the show and all that?
Yeah, this is one of the few shows from that time period because I was still in college when it started. I think that was my first senior year when this show started, and I didn't watch any TV at that time. I mean, I watched SportsCenter and games, and then I watched Arrested Development. I was the only person that watched Arrested Development in its first initial run, at least in the state of Arkansas, because that's where I was at college. But something about the promos for the Office kind of caught my attention. I really don't know why, because you go back, I just got done watching the entire series. I watched episode 1 through episode 188, I think was the last one, over the course of 6 or 8 weeks. And that first season really isn't very good. But it was good enough, at least for me to stick around through the first 6 episodes. And I feel like looking back on it, you can see in the last 2 episodes of the first season kind of have a little bit a more American style to it and a little more I think in hindsight, you can tell that they're slightly breaking away from the British series, and I think that's where it kind of starts to take off. So I've been a day one fan of the show, and like I said, I can't say that about most TV shows, at least at the time that started during that time period. For a while, it was maybe the only show that I was there for every week, because I didn't have a DVR or a TV. I mean, I had to make sure I was home whenever it came on. And I think was the first show that I ever bought on DVD. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that's a big part of why it was able to stay on the air during the first couple of seasons, because it didn't do well ratings wise, but it had great sales on iTunes and on DVD and things like that, which was pretty new, I guess, at the time. So
right, Richard.
Yeah, I was. I watched this movie for one reason only. When I was in seventh. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just locked in the movie mode.
Yeah.
I watched this show from the beginning, kind of like Brian. I was a huge Steve Carell fan as a young lad. I remember in 2000, I guess I was 14. And The Daily Show did their Indecision 2000, which to me had like a profound impact on me from a comedy standpoint. And I remember watching Carell and Colbert go around and just absolutely destroy people at these Democratic and Republican conventions, and laughing just in my bedroom, like with the TV down low, so like my mom didn't know I was watching it and stuff. and so I remember that, and so I kind of always followed Steve Carell. I had a friend in high school who's actually your cousin, Kent Chase, and he was like Mr. Colbert, and I was Mr. Carell, and they were like, I remember in our digital video class in high school, we had you could have your own background on your computer when you logged in, and mine was a picture of Steve Carell, and Chase's was a picture of Steve Colbert. So
nice.
When this show came on, I think I was 18. I had to watch it because of my affinity for Steve Carell, who had since left The Daily Show and was kind of doing some bit parts. Obviously Anchorman in 2003 and some other things, but 40-Year-Old Virgin had not hit yet, when the first season of The Office aired. And anyway, so I checked it out, and I knew of the English one. I don't think I'd seen much of it. It seems weird because it doesn't seem that long ago, but it was just a lot harder to get hold of things like that. You couldn't just find DVDs of shows as easily, and obviously Netflix had not come around yet. So I knew of the British show. I knew it had won a bunch of Golden Globes and was thought of very highly. But oftentimes, cultural interpretations, across the coast are not always the best. But I was willing to give it a shot. I honestly didn't like the first season that much when I watched it. Now or even at the time. But kind of like Brian, I kind of noticed it was at least kind of won me over the last couple episodes, and enough to make me watch the beginning of the second season. And to me, seasons 2 and 3 are still as good as the show ever got. So it immediately peaked and then stayed very good for some time, and then wavered a little bit the last couple of years, but still was definitely. I watched it every week. I've never missed an episode. So that's kind of my journey with the show. I think of it kind of, as much as I love Arrested Development, that was such a short blip on the radar. The Office is certainly the definitive show of my 20s. And so definitely grew up with the characters and loved those characters very much. Not only thought that they were funny, but they were almost family. I think the show did a great job of really building your very almost relationship oriented feel for the characters. So that's my story. Ken, how did you get on the Office train?
Yeah, this show came out right when I graduated high school. During high school, I was really into Seinfeld and the Late Show with David Letterman, actually. So those are pretty much the only shows I can say that I watched significantly in high school. Was like, I would get home from school, do homework, and hang out with my friends, and then I would go to bed with either watching Seinfeld DVDs or late night talk shows. So, other than that, after I graduated high school, I needed a show. I'd seen every Seinfeld episode, and hundreds of times at that point or whatever. So I immediately got attached to The Office. Unlike you, Richard, I was not really a fan of Steve Carell at all prior to The Office. I thought he was okay. I hadn't seen his Daily Show stuff really. My only impressions of him at that point was, I guess, Bruce Almighty he was in, and which one did you say? Anchorman?
Anchorman, yeah.
So, and those were okay roles. It was very, I didn't think he was a leading man by any means at that point, But when I saw The Office, it was so perfectly cast to be Steve Carell, He's like borderline, like very good-looking male, but borderline like not, And it's just like this weird contradiction of just cool and not cool, The perfect boss, the perfect annoying boss. It was just so great, so funny. Something I'd never seen before. It's kind of like really the quintessential show of the aughts, as far as comedy. I would say Seinfeld is the 90s, arguably Friends, late 90s. But this was definitely the show, And I think Arrested Development is as funny, but it's much more of a cult show than The Office. I think The Office was definitely approved by the masses. And like you said, man, like the beginning of season 2, season 3, season 4 even, it's just some of the best TV really that's ever come out, And I'll stand to that opinion probably as long as I live. So that's my introduction. Talk to me a little bit about some favorite episodes. I know I asked you guys to give you your top 5, so let's just run through those real quick. Brian, give me your top 5 episodes.
Sure. I would echo what you guys say. I think you could pick pretty much any episode from 2 through 4 and say, well, that's my favorite episode or the best episode, and I couldn't argue with it because that's as good as sitcom television gets. It's just so good. I did a little post on my blog just kind of recapping my experience with The Office, and then wrote out my top 10 episodes. My number 5 episode is from season 3, episode 5, which is called The Initiation, which is the episode where Dwight takes Ryan on a sales call and teaches him the ropes of selling paper. And meanwhile, it's pretzel day back at the office, and which is a classic office moment. And Jim is away with Karen at the other office, and so I think that's an episode that I'd kind of forgotten how good it is. But going back through and watching the whole series through, it just really caught me as, man, this is just, there's so much that happens in this episode. It could have been 3 episodes, if they'd wanted to. They could have broken that up, and so love that episode. My number 4 favorite is I think was the episode that made me love the show, and it happened in season 2 about halfway through. I think it's episode 12, and that one is known as The Injury. When Michael Scott clamps his foot in a George Foreman girl, and then Dwight gets a concussion. I think that I was right in the midst of falling. I was probably falling in love with the show at that point, and then that episode hit, and that was the clincher. It's just such a weird dynamic going on between Michael and Dwight, and I feel like it's kind of coming to fruition at that time that Dwight would forego his own safety to be there for Michael, who has, like a 1st-degree burn for doing something stupid,
Right.
Just I love that one. Great episode, a lot of fun to watch. My number 3 favorite episode is from season 7. And that is Goodbye, Michael, which obviously is the last episode for Michael Scott, in which he left the office. I can't think about or talk about really that the scene between Michael and Jim, when Jim realizes that Michael's leaving that day without getting choked up. It's just such a poignant moment, and I think very much shows the heart of the show, which is what made it so great for its whole, its entire run. Number 2 favorite is similar to Goodbye Michael, and that's Niagara, which is the Jim and Pam wedding episode. I'm very sentimental about Jim and Pam. I love them, and if you watch the little documentary special that they ran before this final episode, Jenna Fisher talked about people wishing that Jim and Pam were together in real life. That Jenna Fisher and John Krasinski were together, and I totally confess I'm a member of that group. I love them to death. And
there's no way they weren't hooking up behind the scenes. You know what I mean? They're too perfect together. It's like they are a couple.
Yeah. But
their
that
chemistry
episode
was so good.
Just makes me weep anytime I watch it, and I think that is a perfect example of how to do event television in a sitcom. I think a lot of times the episodes that you look forward to the most on a sitcom, they don't execute them properly, and I think Niagara is an example of how to do that right. And then my favorite episode is really a collection of episodes, and that's the Christmas episodes, all of them, especially 2, 3, and 9. I would say. Which is Benihana Christmas might be the best episode of the show. The original Christmas party episode where Michael turns it into a Yankee swap. Christmas is incredible. Moroccan Christmas is pretty awkward and great. And I really loved this last one, Dwight Christmas. I thought it was a very funny episode. It kind of opened up or close some doors the right way, and so I really like that one a lot. So those are my I cheated on that last one, but I can't differentiate between
the one where the Christmas one where Michael tries to be sexy Santa or whatever.
Yeah, classy Christmas.
Because the girl's coming.
Yeah.
It's too good.
It's good stuff. My wife and I watch those Christmas episodes every year while we're hanging Christmas decorations, and it's that's become kind of one of our family traditions, and it's sad to me. I think almost more than anything else, as far as The Office being done, is that I won't have another Office Christmas to add to that tradition.
Absolutely. Number 1?
Yeah, that one's it. Christmas episodes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Richard.
All right.
Thoughts on Brian's picks, or go ahead.
Very sound. Very agree with a lot of those episodes. Somehow we didn't have any of the same ones, but a lot of those were in my kind of...
Mine aren't any of the same ones either, so...
Great.
So that's good sign.
That's good, yeah.
So my number... mine is, like Brian, a very seasons 2 through 5 heavy. But my number 5 episode is from season 5, and it's Michael Scott Paper Company. Okay. Love that episode. Number 4 is Dinner Party.
Yes.
This is a $200 television.
I think that's the most awkward 30 minutes of television ever. It's just so great, but I paced the whole time that first episode, just walked around the room. It was just so uncomfortable.
Number 3 is from season 4 for me. Fun Run.
Yes.
Yeah. Number 2 is from season 3, Cocktails. And
what's that one?
That's the one with at David Wallace's house. Jim and Karen are dating. There's a party at his house.
Directed by J.J. Abrams.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Little factoid for you.
And my number 1 favorite Office of all time is the original Dundies episode.
Yes.
The first season 2, yeah. That's really where, when season 2 came out and that episode was the first one, you're like, okay, that was actually pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this show really hit its stride in season 2. Man, it was just so good once it started to get good, My number 5.
Niagara from season 6 was also up there.
Okay.
Go ahead. You go, Kent. All you.
Niagara, the wedding episode, yeah.
Yeah, that was my honorable mention.
Okay. It was hard for me to narrow it down, but I did. My honorable mention was Fun Run.
Okay.
Great. Just such a good episode when Andy's got the nipple chafing thing going on, and save the rabies. You know, it was so funny because that episode didn't really get started until the second half. You know, there was no mention of a fun run. There's this whole like hitting her with the car thing.
Right,
like, just too good. So my number 4, or actually my number 5, is season 2, episode 8, performance review.
Yes,
and this was just kind of Michael and Jan at their finest, kind of right after they had hooked up or kissed at Putt Putt, and he's got to have a corporate meeting with Jan, but trying not to mention them hooking up or whatever, and it's just her shutting him down over and over and over again, and you really see the vulnerability of Michael Scott there. That was kind of the first episode that made me open my eyes to the series. Number 4 is Michael Scott Paper Company. So many physical gags in that episode. So great. Like when they're cutting the ribbon on the actual office, like the scissors don't work, you know, and they're like giant shears. Like, just so good. And when he's trying to like scoot up to the table with Pam and Ryan, he like his chair can't get around the desk because the copier's in the way, you know, just small stuff like that was great. Number 3 is actually season 7, episode 24, Dwight K. Schrute, acting manager.
Okay.
And this is the one where Dwight becomes acting manager right after Michael leaves and shoots a gun in the office.
Right.
Dwight at his best.
Sometimes,
and it was just so good. Number 2, season 5, episode 19, Golden Ticket. Some of Michael Scott's greatest moments, I think I can say that, where he comes up with a golden ticket scheme and puts golden tickets in random boxes, but all the boxes end up going to the same client, and he gets in big trouble, and then tries to pawn the idea off on Dwight. Just incredible writing there. Number 1 is season 3, episode 18, Safety Training. Where Michael tries to commit suicide by jumping off the office and onto a bouncy castle. And this episode starts off with Daryl giving them a tour of the warehouse. Right. And Michael just trying to take over the tour and everything, and trying to dispute all the rules and everything. It was just that was another moment where I really got into it.
That one was one of my favorite quotes from the entire series when he's up on the roof and
go get a watermelon. Seedless?
That one's great too, but I love when he's reading from his card, you know, it's
Dwight,
like rehearsed bit. Dwight, you ignorant slut, just kills me. Cracks me up every time.
Oh, goodness gracious. Man, that just shows Dwight and Michael like teaming up. They're both so ignorant of the situation. You know, it's like, Dwight's dead serious. He's like, gets a bouncy castle. It's much safer. Yes, great decision.
Yes,
some great stuff. Let's talk about some of the overall casting of the show. Who is your favorite character of the show, Brian?
Oh, you know, it's Richard and I talked about this, and so Richard, I'm going to steal what you said just to kind of echo what we talked about in text message form. But I think most people, or most guys anyway, you gravitate towards Jim, especially early on, and you in some ways you want to be Jim, but by the end of it, I don't know how Michael Scott could not be anyone's. I don't know. I think Michael Scott is possibly the best sitcom character of all time, and so for me to choose anybody beyond him would be disingenuous. Despite how much I love Jim Halpert, and how I think for at least the first 2 seasons, and maybe 3 and stretching into 4, I was fully a Jim Halpert guy, and it took a while for Michael Scott to completely sell me on who he is as a person. But once you get there, gosh, he's just such a great character.
Yeah. Richard.
Well, obviously, I mean, I've got to choose Nellie. No, I would say, I mean, Michael, I think Michael definitely is my favorite sitcom character of all time.
Yeah.
I think he's played better. The acting level in that character is so. The level of difficulty is so high, and to make that character endearing, and then to make him incredibly endearing by the end.
Yeah.
Never won an Emmy for it either.
I know. It's
Don't bring
unbelievable.
that up. I don't want
Don Draper and Michael Scott don't have Emmys, so
yeah,
that's cool though. Because John Cryer has 74, because that's really a tough.
Hey, what's up, Ma'am Fam? Kent here. And yes, if you're hearing from me, you know it's time to talk about Blue Apron. If you haven't tried out Blue Apron by now, what the heck are you even doing? Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. They deliver fresh meals straight to your door. All the food is fresh, it's sourced from local farms, and there's no wasted ingredients. I've been a Blue Apron subscriber for a long time now, and they have still, to this day, never let me down. There's tons of variety. Some featured upcoming meals include summer vegetable and egg paninis, soy glazed pork and rice cakes, skillet vegetable chili with cheddar drop biscuits, holy crap, and garlic butter shrimp and corn with green bean salad. So take it from me. Try out Blue Apron now. Go to blueapron.com/mad. That's blueapron.com/mad. Get 3 meals on us for free. Nothing goes better with a movie than dinner. So check out Blue Apron. blueapron.com/mad. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. Hey, Ma'am Fam, question for you. Do you own a small business, or are you a boss? Are you looking to hire awesome people, but you just can't find somebody to fill that role? Well, let me tell you about ZipRecruiter.com. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100+ job sites, all with one click. In fact, over 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. Right now, you can post your jobs for free on ZipRecruiter by going to ZipRecruiter.com/mad. That's ZipRecruiter.com/mad. One more time, try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/mad. Thanks to ZipRecruiter for supporting this episode of the Mad About Movies podcast.
Tough role.
Yeah.
But Michael Scott to me is my favorite. I'll try to think of somebody not of Michael Scott's the main. I mean Dwight's up there. I don't think I like Dwight as much as everyone else did. I mean, I love Dwight, but I don't really know who
I didn't feel like they wrote correctly for him enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The few stuff that they did was awesome. Like the beat farmer aspect and his whole liking rock and roll. And he drove the right car, but majority of the stuff could have been written for any character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
But the stuff that made me laugh for Dwight probably made me laugh harder than any character.
Oh yeah.
He was just so classic, so good.
My favorite moment in the show's history is when they go to is in Branch Wars.
Yeah.
When they go to Karen's branch, and Dwight just screams, "We're gonna burn Utica to the ground," and then Michael very seriously goes, "Dwight, but if you so much as harm one hair on Stanley Hudson's head,
yeah,
we will burn Utica to the ground." He just really quietly says it in such a scary way, and he means it. He will burn that place down. That to me is the funniest Dwight and Michael interaction.
I love it when he was the volunteer security officer, and he would just shut down the office and conduct an investigation. You know what I mean? Yeah. So many random times. Oh my gosh.
Okay, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite character?
It's gonna have to be Dwight or Michael Scott.
Yeah,
for sure. I would say Dwight edges it out just because I know so many people like him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just know so many people that are so awesome, but still so weird. You know what I mean? For being so awesome for being so weird. I love about this show is that, everybody knows somebody like these people. Every office from now on that you work in, you're going to be comparing them to the office. You know what I mean? Okay, that guy's like Stanley. That guy's like Phyllis. I mean, that lady's like Phyllis. You know what I mean? It's like the personalities fit every stereotype of person that you'll meet in an office. You know what I mean? So
Totally.
Jim
And
was
I think that's part of what's great about the show is I mean, we all just mentioned our favorite characters. We all mentioned Michael Scott in some way or another. But some of those side characters are incredible. And at times, at various times, especially later in the show.
I liked Andy Bernard for a long time.
Yeah, for a couple of years, Andy was great.
Until Michael Scott left.
Yeah.
They kind of gave him too much responsibility. But
Right.
after,
they tried to turn him
before
into
that.
Yeah.
Before that, he was gold. Yeah.
But there's plenty of episodes down the stretch of the show that really the only reason that season 8 especially, where the only reason why you can continue to tune in is because the side characters are so strong. Creed and Phyllis and Stanley and so on are such excellent, and they're all, I think almost any of them, if you gave them more than the few lines that they get each episode, they'd get old pretty quickly. But they seem to know, at least with their supporting characters, the role that all those guys need to play, and I felt like usually throughout the course of the show lived up to that, and kept it to where none of them got old, and kept the focus where it needed to be, but gave you enough of those guys that you got a little treat. I think some of Creed's stuff is some of the funniest stuff on the show, and he has like one line per episode.
It disappointed me that he didn't have more lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
he didn't even have a line most episodes.
Yeah,
you know what
but
I mean?
I think that's part of his genius is that you never know when he's going to pop up and just say something totally off the wall, and it throws you off, and that's what it's supposed to do, and it's great. I think if you had that happening more often, then it starts to lose the spontaneousness of it.
Yeah, I like the one where where Andy puts on the little business seminar in the office, and Creed comes in there and gives a speech.
Yeah.
Just little moments like that where he actually got to say something were so gold. So
right.
golden. Let's talk about the finale episode. Brian, you said that you liked a lot of the landmark episodes of The Office. I liked most of them. I can't really remember. I don't think I liked the birthing one. Was that the one where Pam was awkwardly trying to breastfeed her kid the whole time? And that was kind of weird.
That wasn't a particularly strong episode. Yeah, I agree.
I thought Jim and Pam got married, very early. I don't know if I should say that because they probably didn't envision the show going as long as it did after that.
Right.
But after they got married, the show really slowed down. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people would tune in just to see Jim and Pam. What's going to happen? Are they going to get married? You know what I mean? After that, it was just kind of watching that couple that always is so in love and posting pictures, and it's just all right, we get it. You're in love. Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally
the show definitely hit a rough patch here for a while.
Well, and I think that, I have no problem with how early they went to the wedding. I just think they didn't do a good job of writing Jim and Pam after that. And once you took the interest away from Jim and Pam, then you got
that's when you got the Aaron Andy thing.
Sure, and you got more Dwight maybe than you really needed every episode. And I think what you kind of said earlier, I think maybe they, in their efforts to beef up his role, maybe the writers kind of missed on his character traits in those season 6 and season 7.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I just don't think they had a great plan for where to go with Jim and Pam once they got married.
Yeah. So let's talk about how they ended this show. How did you feel that the show, the final episode lived up to the expectation?
Yeah, I did. I loved it. I don't know that it's not one of my 10 favorite episodes of all time, but I felt like it was very fitting and very appropriate to the show and sent the show off in the best way possible. Series finales are tricky. I think in a lot of ways, many times those are more tricky than even the pilot, which is always a rough proposition. But to be able to kind of sum up the feelings that it's not just summing up the feelings and the events of the characters' lives, but summing up how the audience feels about all these characters and the events that they've gone through and whatnot. And tying a nice tidy bow on that is a thing to do. But I felt like they did it very well. I felt like we got closure with every character that has shown up on the show. And I felt good about how all of them ended. They each, some of the side characters got only a few seconds, and that's what they deserved. That's what they needed. But I like being able to see them all right off the right way and feel good about, because I do love these characters so much. I've never been as invested in a show character wise, especially there's like 20 of them or 15 characters that you really care about. And so maybe it sounds ridiculous, but I want to feel good about where those characters are going from here on out. You know what I mean? And I feel like they gave us that very appropriately and satisfactorily.
Richard, did you see the finale?
No, I didn't. I watched it. Yeah, no, it was very good. It was, the reason I know it was good is 'cause I really can't picture it ending any other way. It hit every note I wanted to. I feel like everyone was really resolved, maybe with the exception of Toby, was the only character that didn't really have a nice clean ending. He's in New York writing a book, and then he accepts an invitation to the party, and that's pretty much the last we ever see of him. But other than that, everyone kind of had their little moment of resolution. The way it was done, which is how Gervais did the pretty much all of his finales, which is it's kind of removed from the show. So instead of being a true finale, it's really almost an epilogue. So it's a year later, so on and so forth. So that was a neat way to end it and kind of give some a little more space as to where these characters have gone in a year and where they're going. So I was very satisfied and happy with it. I laughed, I cried. It was it was weird knowing I would never see Jim Halpert again. Yeah. Or some of those other people. Some of them, like Andy, I was happy to hopefully never see again. But no, it was perfect. I really think. I mean, it was. I don't think you could end that show any other way than the way they did.
I agree. It really did do a good job of closure for these characters. I think the last 3 episodes, specifically the second to last one and the last one, the writing was so great on those episodes that it really because it had been so bad up to that point that it really it shows you how good the writing is and how good the characters are. Other than Michael Scott, you get emotional about even the B characters. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It really did close it out. I think Seinfeld's finale got really criticized for not giving us closure on anything. I mean, it did a good job rehashing what had happened in the other seasons. But it didn't close it out. It ends literally with them in prison. It's like
right.
How more awkward could you end a show? But it did an awesome job. It really, like I said, it really just brought closure to the entire thing. I'm gonna miss the characters. I really am. I'm gonna miss this show. Hopefully we see these actors pop up other places. I don't want this to be a show where everyone's a B Hollywood actor after this. You know what I mean? I want everyone's careers to take off because I like the characters. But if they don't do anything after this, it'll just prove how good the show is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think you hit on something there. I mean, I think part of what's made The Office so great is that it's somewhat as close to as we get these days with DVRs and everything. It's been appointment viewing for several seasons, and kind of brought you into this world where you love everything that's happening. You love all the characters. You want to know more and more and more. And to know that that's not going to, the next fall on Thursdays, I'm not going to be able to tune in and see what's happening at Dunder Mifflin is sad. That's a tough, that's what I was dealing with going through, the last episode was just thinking of how, even though the show hasn't been so great for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been something that I watched religiously. I still
watched it, yeah.
And I never missed an episode, and I never went more. I DVR everything, and there's plenty of stuff that I don't watch for maybe 2 or 3 weeks even after it has shown. But I doubt very few times have I gone 24 hours after the show was on that I watched it. It was always as quickly as I could even during season 8, which sucks. Season 8 is really bad.
Yeah.
I still was there every week and made sure that I knew what was happening at Dunder Mifflin. So
Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit about some of the guest stars on the show. This show had some amazing guest stars. James Spader, Will Ferrell, and some others. Richard, talk to me about the guest stars. I know you're a Spader fan.
Oh, I love Spader. I didn't love him as much on the show. I don't think they ever really figured out how to write for him. I think he actually could have been good. And I thought he was a pretty interesting and fun choice, but they never really figured out how to write for him.
yeah,
But I don't really throw that at his feet too much. But no, I loved it. Was Farrell was funny for the couple episodes he did. Michael Imperioli was really my favorite cameo of all time this year. There's a bunch of little ones. Keckner was always great.
Yeah. Packer.
And there's a few different ones. But
Who is the guy that played Gabe?
I don't know his name, but he was terrifying.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's the creepiest guy.
Idris Elba. Idris Elba
was good. Yeah.
was awesome.
I
Kathy Bates.
had no idea he was British at that point. He didn't
Yeah.
have an American accent.
He's so great.
As Charles
He's incredible.
Minor. Yeah.
Oh.
And Kathy Bates. Man, there's just a ton of cool people that popped up short term. The two new guys they added this year were almost cameo type roles. They had some funny moments. Just a lot of little side characters. Amy Adams was in season 1.
Yeah.
What's her name? Who plays Michael's wife?
Holly?
Amy Ryan.
Amy Ryan also was a
Rashida
great
Jones.
role.
Amy Ryan
yeah.
was so great.
Before she was on Parks and Rec. Yeah.
Yeah, Rashida Jones was great. I was pretty torn. As much as I love Jim and Pam, I really like Jim and Karen too. So, it's a lot of really great actors that either had already done a lot of neat stuff, which shows the power of that show. That they would get a Will Ferrell or somebody like that, but also some people kind of before they were known, kind of getting their start with a role in The Office too. So very cool.
A lot of directors, a lot of guest directors too on the show.
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston did an episode. Joss Whedon, J.J. Abrams, just great show that a lot of people wanted to be involved with. Any more thoughts on The Office in general before I got one more thing?
Yeah, I'll say I think that there are a lot of our listeners out there who probably watched The Office through its first maybe 5 or maybe even 6 seasons and then dropped off. And I think that it's become very cliche even to talk crap about the show because it didn't age as well as we would have liked it to. And I feel like those people need to go back and watch it again. I hate it. Season 8 is an example because I think season 8 is really bad. That's the Spader season. They tried to make Andy Bernard Michael Scott. They just didn't have a way to go once Michael left the show, and I think it's not good. But even that season, I just rewatched it, last week or maybe the week before, and there's still some value. There's still some funny moments. There's still stuff that jumps out at you and reminds you of why you like this show so much. So I guess my point is, it didn't age the way that we would have liked, and you could make a case that it had 6 seasons worth of great stuff that was spread out over 9 seasons. But I still think that to bash on it because of a down year, especially. If you've bailed out on it, I guess my point is if you bailed out on it, I think that it's worth going back and catching back up with. And because season 9 was really, would you guys agree? I felt like season 9 was really good.
This latest season?
This most recent season.
I'll have to go back and watch. I mean, I've seen all the episodes, but I mean, once it comes out on DVD, I'll have to make that judgment. But I thought it was strong. I thought it was towards the end. It was definitely some of the stronger episodes they've had, for sure.
There's probably an 8 or 10 episode arc in the middle of season 9 that
there was a lot of quarreling between Jim and Pam.
That got old. Sure,
that kind of got old. Like, all right, there's no way they're going to get a divorce at the end. Right. It's like, what is going on?
But yeah, anyway, I went back. I watched all of season 9 this last week. I got Hulu Plus for a week just so I could
Nice.
rewatch everything. And the first probably 8 or 10 episodes are really strong, and then the last. I really think the last 3 episodes of the series you could hold up against most of the better episodes of the entire run. So anyway, I feel like it's something that a lot of people bailed out on, and especially with it all being on Netflix and whatnot, I truly believe it's worth going back and reinvesting in, even if you got burnt out. When it stopped being week to week hilarious.
Yeah, Richard, any other thoughts?
No, I'm all spent.
I wanted to do one more thing
That's what she said.
before we talk about before we give weekly recommends. One of the things that made the show great was the feuding between Jim and Dwight. A lot of pranks were pulled. I want to mention my favorite, and you guys can mention your favorite. I loved when Jim went to Nashua and started sending, or Stamford, I should say. Isn't it Stamford? Yeah.
Yeah, Stanford.
And started sending Dwight faxes from his future self. That was hilarious. Brian, what's your favorite Jim prank on Dwight?
There's an episode in, I think, season 2, and I'm trying to find it, and I can't figure out what the title of it's called. But it's not just a prank. It's the one where they're going through the complaints that Dwight has filed against Jim, and that's always been one of my favorite episodes, just because they're listing off all these ridiculous things that Jim has done to Dwight that we don't even see. And I think that's part of the genius. Like, we didn't even see. My favorite is the one where he just says something like, the complaint says something like, today I hit myself in the face with my phone. And then it cuts to Jim and he says, yeah, I just loaded a nickel into his phone every day until it got so heavy, and then I took out all the nickels. And but yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the whole show is the pranks. And I loved how they did that, even in later seasons where they'd randomly bring one of those out. And just so great. Some of the best stuff that they did on that show, for sure.
Totally. Richard?
Wow. A lot of the stuff in season 2 and 3 that he does to him. I'll say my favorite one ever, though, was probably the one from the finale. The final prank on Dwight was probably my favorite of all time.
So great.
Yeah, it was great. It's very good. You can mention it if you want.
When he tells Michael that he cannot be when he tells Dwight he cannot be his best man because he's younger than Dwight, and they argue, and then he says, "I'm sorry, I can't be there for you, and I wish there was something I could do," and Dwight pans over, and there's the return of Michael Gary Scott.
Yes.
And he finishes it with, "That's what she said." I mean,
Yep.
Perfect shot there.
Yeah. The thing Michael says at the end is so great. He's like, all my children are grown up and then they married each other. Every parent's dream. So funny. Well, like I said, this is my favorite show probably since year 2000. Definitely my favorite comedy. There's a lot of dramas that are working their way up there in my mind, but it's definitely my favorite show, and I'm going to miss it. It's going to be. Yeah. I'm excited though for what comes next, what show I'm going to get attached to, because now I have to go find something. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
30 Rock's gone too. We should also mention how good that show was.
Yes, brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah, but definitely The Office is that quintessential, one camera.
Wait, is Mike
show.
and Molly still on?
It is. And
Okay,
Last Man Standing, starring Tim Allen, is also on.
But unfortunately, we not only lost. This was a bad year, and Brian can attest. We lost 3 great NBC sitcoms that were iconic in the 2000s. We lost 30 Rock, we lost The Office, and we, of course, the Community's coming back. But we, of course, lost Whitney.
Yeah.
Oh.
And,
I tried 3 times to watch.
Can we just
take
a moment of silence and just really let Whitney just wash over us? I mean, she's brilliant. Brilliant. Okay,
stop it. You're ruining a good
thing. I'm still waiting on my
ruining the moment of silence.
I know.
All right, that's enough silence.
Paul, no.
But I agree
I
that show
me
is
that
garbage.
that show would not last 13 episodes, and I I'm a cynical person and knew that America would at least let Whitney last 2 years. And came out on the right side of history on that one, Ryan.
I know. I owe you a Whataburger.
I think you already gave it to me.
Well, let's seek out a sponsorship from Whataburger and move on to Weekly Recommends, shall we?
Sure.
Brian Gill.
Okay, the only thing that I've been watching lately has been The Office. Like I said, I crammed in 188 episodes in the last 6 weeks. So I've been very busy doing that. But I did watch a favorite sci-fi movie of mine today to prepare for our next podcast that we're going to record back to back with this. And I'll recommend Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which might be certainly the best Star Trek movie from the original group of pre-J.J. Abrams movies. Holds up very well. It's on Netflix Instant, so anybody can access it. And I would say anybody who's going to go see Star Trek Into Darkness needs to watch this one, either before or after you see that. It's a great movie and has a great villain that plays a big part in the Star Trek universe of today.
Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Very Shakespearean, Richard. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but he's for Shakespearean. It's pretty great.
Who doesn't
No
love the
one's
Montalban?
truly dead if you can find a way to remember them.
That's right.
Fair point.
Richard Barton, Weekly Recommend.
Well, I only prepared one weekly recommend. I didn't know we were doing a recommend on this podcast, so I'll just recommend what I just watched, and as a teaser for our next podcast, and to go along with Brian, I will recommend Star Trek Into Darkness. Enjoyed it immensely, and I can't wait to talk it over with you guys here in about 5 minutes.
I don't want to really think that's a good idea because I don't want to taint the good name of the movie because my review is gonna make headlines. I'll just say that.
Okay.
Let's is that so? Your Star Trek Into Darkness, Richard?
Yes.
I want to mention I've done an app, we've done books, we've done TV shows, we've done movies, we've done docs. I would like to mention for the first time an album.
Oh.
Yeah, a music album for those of you who aren't familiar.
All right. I almost went album this week and then I backed off. So
you can go album next week.
Maybe so.
So this album is also a documentary and it's also a CD that you can buy. It's I have it on vinyl, 3LP. It's from Led Zeppelin. It's called Celebration Day, and it is their reunion concert that was in 2007 in London. Have you guys seen it?
Haven't seen it. It is on my to get list for sure. I love Zeppelin, so I'm very stoked to get a chance to watch that and listen to it.
Richard.
Yes, I have seen it. Pardon me. I have seen the O2 concert, yes, but I have not listened to the album. Pardon me.
You can borrow it. It's so
Okay.
good. It's within the first 10 seconds of the album. You're just like, wow, they never went anywhere. You know what I mean? It sounds like they haven't skipped a beat in 30 years or whatever.
No, it's such a great band. When Giants Walk the Earth is, I think, I've read 2 or 3 books on Zeppelin. That one's my favorite. It's by Mick Wall. If you want to get a little more deep into the whole Zeppelin story, Kent, When Giants Walk the Earth, Mick Wall.
Nice. I can back that up. Good stuff. They play all the hits on it. It's definitely worth checking out. John Bonham's son, Jason Bonham, is the drummer on it, and he's amazing. Like, if you're not watching it, which I wasn't watching it, I was listening to it, it sounds, like Led Zeppelin in their heyday. It's so good. It's just they haven't really skipped a beat at all. So definitely check it out. Celebration Day from Led Zeppelin. Brian Gill, let me ask you this. Where can I find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at bgill12, and you can find my writing at my new website called canbabiesdrinkredbull.com. And I did just put up right before the weekend, put up a big Office send-off, and would love for people to stop by and check it out and leave your feedback.
Sweet. Richard.
You can find me on Twitter at Richard Barton or at richardbarton.com. Kent, where can I find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Kent Garrison. You can email the show at madaboutmoviespodcast@gmail.com. Go on iTunes, subscribe. You can also listen on Stitcher Radio on your iOS or Android device, leave us a review and leave us a tweet, and we'd love to hear from you. So anything else you guys want to say before we get out of here?
No,
Nope.
Thank you to the office. Thank you to Greg Daniels and Company
That's right.
for 9 great years.
Yes,
I will never
thank you very
forget
much.
you, Michael Scott.
I'm sure
No.
we'll have this conversation again, and I look forward to it.
That's what she said.
On that note, until next time, we will see you at the cinema.
Goodbye.
Why?
See you later.